I'm Mitch Klett from Northern Michigan University with Scott Graves from Southern Connecticut and Dave Badowski from downstate. We call them trolls. It's okay. He knows that. He knows we call them trolls. And originally I was part of the Master Trainer program, but when I talked to Teresa about what my sabbatical was for my university, it tied really nicely in with the technology. So working with Scott and Dave, we came up with some of these ideas.
Okay. I've been cobbling together some screen images to cover a variety of things. Mitch, again, is going to be working on application development for tablets, pods, iPhones, what sabbatical is. Dave has actually been moving ahead and with that, and he's already got some prototypes and a whole workflow diagram to show you exactly how that would work. If I can do a brief intro, I'm going to go through a couple of screens, and some of this you already know. You know, what's the state of data collection? What are the tools, kits, equipment, stuff that we use today? So maybe either Dave or Mitch can grab that. You can just annotate it a little bit. Again, I just took some screenshots from the Globe website. There is a link on the Globe website to download some KMZ files, Google Earth files, for visualizing some things in Google Earth for Globe. Not a whole bunch, but I mean, if everything was downloaded, it would be really overwhelming. So there's some other strategies. Anyway, our group was led by Todd Ensign. He's not here today, but we had some great interactions online, good exchange of emails. Again, Tony from Montana, David is here. Peggy Folletta is not present, but she was part of the group, and then myself and Mitch Klett. A couple of questions that came out of that initial meeting when we were in Colorado. You know, how do we explore Web 2.0 technology? What is Web 2.0? There's some operational definitions, and there's some commonly held definitions, so we'll talk about that. And then maybe retooling some of the classic Globe material, updates, newer look and feel, connections to Common Core. We've already heard some of that. Rethinking analog versus digital data collection. That's really sort of what we're going to talk about, and some new interfaces. And here's the big underlying question, though, and this is, again, came out of committee discussions. Paraphrase here. Why does it take up to years before a Globe-trained teacher really begins to get comfortable with all the data submitting to Globe? So we think there needs to be a more consistent way of entering teacher data without getting duplicate records. Maybe this was part of what was coming from Globe itself. But again, we know the interfaces are a little bit old technology, so what can we do? So I started looking what is available out there, and I just went to Google's website and went to their Google Labs and saw a whole bunch of either Java scripted or Flash-enabled plugins that people can plug into their website. And so they have a visualization gallery, and I'll show you a couple of those. But again, Globe, I did download Globe's KMZ file, and there's a whole bunch of information there and some links to other servers, NASA servers. But it would be nice to at least get Globe country coordinator information there. If you roll over and click on it, a screen could pop up and all kinds of stuff. Let me give you an example of a website that I've been looking to model some of the work I'm doing after. Here's Google Earth fully embedded in a web page. So you don't have to download a KMZ file, beam up Google Earth, and then you've got all these other things in there, all these other bookmark sites in Google Earth. They've just embedded it in their website, and you can turn on and off the layers that you want to turn on and off that are specific to that program. So I'm looking to talk to these people and some other people and figure out exactly how to do that. It's probably not that difficult, but it's a direction maybe Globe could go in. have a page that is a visualization page on the Globe website. Here's a couple of other examples from the Google Visualization Server. There's a lot of different things that you can do. If you roll over any of these countries, this is just a screen snapshot, but if you roll over them, they're interactive, things pop up, that kind of stuff. Let me show you one more. I hope this actually works. If I click on it, should be a little movie. So as you scroll the cursor back and forth, it's just an interactive timeline. That's something else. We might take, a set of globe data that is really continuous and shows some great stuff, temperature, soil temperature, whatever, just an example, and be able to scroll it back and forth. This is something that Dave has been working on. It's an earlier iteration of probably a GIS-backed visualization server for his watershed project, and he'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we get there, this is where we're at now with the technologies. Yeah, so most of us probably do the chemical test kits. I've gotten to the point where I use them for training. It's just such classic chemistry, titrating and getting precipitates and all that. And I do that initially in the field and in the laboratory, and then we move to the probeware. So I'm not producing hazardous waste or stuff to go down the drain. I'm just going strictly probeware from there. But there's a lot of probes that the data from which Globe won't accept at this point, as I understand it. And I've got tons of probeware data and just sort of sitting on it. It'd be nice to get it into Globe. Finally, here's Vernier and Pasco. I know you all know who those groups are. And they've each come up with these handheld units. And, they're slowly but surely struggling with this whole thing. I just talked to a Pasco fellow, Corey. You probably remember him. He's come to some Globe things before. I actually saw him up in Starbucks this morning, and I recognized him. I said, this is what we're doing. We're talking about it. And I don't know if I should probably say this. He said, Pasco would love to get in a position of working with the probeware and interface stuff and maybe move away from the actual unit. Because a lot of technology, a lot of expertise, and things change so fast. The hardware changes so fast. So they're beginning to look at a few iPhone apps and stuff. But they're just exploring. Vernier has one for your iPhone that just takes video and helps you analyze video. It's a pretty cool app, but it's the kind of stuff that we need is chemistry link stuff. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Dave, who's actually got some programs up and running, and he'll tell you a little about the websites and the apps he's developing.
Yeah, it's interesting to be introduced as from Southern Michigan. I've never been introduced to Southern Michigan, and everybody knows, this is Michigan. We never talk about the Upper Peninsula up here. I mean, they're there, we know. There's a bridge that connects us, but we're right here. So when we kind of think of Detroit as pretty much all of Southern Michigan. So when we just kind of go by Detroit. But it's great to be here and great to work with Mitch and everybody on this project. We've got, you'll notice up there it says Icarus. NASA gave us a grant. We're in our first year. It's called Investigating Climate Change and Remote Sensing. And it was perfect timing because it ties in with the climate research campaign with Globe. So right from the very beginning, we were fortunate. Donna Charlevoix came out and did an opening remarks with our group because I think there's a real strong connection. Whatever we do, we want to be able to tie in with Globe. So as we share this stuff, even though it may be coming from the Icarus project, we're thinking along with Globe. One of the things that we have to do as part of our grant with NASA is to develop a field data collector. And right from the beginning, right after we got our grant, the iPad came out, and so we totally shifted our thinking. We gave every one of our teachers an iPad, and we said that we would develop a field data collector that would work with an iPad, iPhone, and now probably get into Androids, eventually. And that was the thing, that we wanted kids to be able to collect data and be able to upload that data anywhere, anytime. And we're actually working on a grant now so that we can get our teachers mobile hotspots and we can take those out into the field, which will be real nice. And then we have a reference library that they would be able to access as well. But one of the other things that we did, this is our website, changes about every day. We keep redesigning it. one of the things that on the right-hand side you'll notice is the social networking piece, that we wanted to make sure that our teachers are connected on Facebook, Twitter, Picasa, and on Blogspot. And I know that I follow Globe on Facebook and on Twitter, and those comments, especially on Twitter, getting those each day or so, kind of interesting to see what's going on. It's been a challenge, though, to get our teachers, even though we give them an iPad, we give them phone connection and so on, it's tough for them to work on this interface, especially Twitter, because a lot of people don't use it. Same with the blog. Facebook, very common, but not so much with school. We have one school that's actually assigned a student to access these each day and report back to the teachers. It's actually made it a little easier to look at. And one of the things that we're working on, you'll see one of our teachers with a kite there. Part of our grant was also we fly kites at about 1,200 feet, and then we have cameras and atmospheric collectors that we can collect data and share that data from out in the field through these kites flying at about 1,000 feet. And that's another reason why we wanted a data collector in the field. So we have this kite piece, and then we have the globe piece, the ground truthing piece on land. So you'll see that we've started work on, this is kind of just the beginning of our app that we're designing. And one of the things that you'll see is that you obviously have to log in on it. And then we're trying to have that GIS interface in the back, whether it's global, Google Earth or whatever it might be in the background. And then they have to input information, and you'll see that it's just kind of basic information that you would continue. But the GPS is already built in, dates are already built in, times are already built in, and so that we're able to have a lot of this kind of stuff. Our first work was actually tied in with water quality, so you'll see a lot of that. But that's where we're looking at an app so that it's usable out in the field. And this particular one where you see the mission data, and up above you see some of the pictures of people working with the kites up there, is they have to collect data on their missions as well. And we've tried to tie in, how can we tie in missions with Globe investigation dates and sites and so on. So we're working on pulling those together. This happens to be our plan of how we look at putting climate change remote sensing in an investigative process. But what it does lead to, and I know it's a big slide with a lot of, it's the same size as everything else, but eventually leads to this picture here. And I'll pass mine around. If you keep it sideways and you just slide up and down, maybe you can view it a little bit better. But this is what we're looking for in an app. What we tried to do is we've looked at one of our last Globe meetings, we looked at all of the data that the climate change student climate research campaign is trying to collect. And then what we're trying to do is to set up what that interface may look like on the right-hand side, where you see the site definition in common fields, so that eventually, if you'll see on the right, which of course is too big, but you can see it in the iPad as it comes around, we've tried to take all of the different protocols that Globe would like and then put those into the app, so that if we're holding this, we should be able to just touch and be able to put any of the data for any of the protocols that we want. Maybe it's multiple apps, I don't know. But it was interesting that Mitch, and he'll talk about, he's just received a sabbatical to work on apps. We're working with Eastern Michigan University ourselves and with NASA. Maybe we can have that partnership with Northern Michigan. And anybody else in Globe, with the web design and so on. I talked to John from NOAA and stuff, how we can bring all of these together, because I think we have lots of great projects going on together. Mitch?
Are there more slides? Yeah, it's really strange because there's a lot of overlap in everything that we do, and a lot of it just has to come down to talking and figuring out, well, who's doing what with who and where, and what are the outcomes. So we're very excited to find out that Downstate is doing the same kind of stuff that we're doing now. I was awarded a sabbatical to work on developing apps. Now, I wrote this about 6 months ago, and in 6 months, the entire floor has changed in the app development field. 3 months ago, Google overtook iPad 10-1 on their systems use. So Android is 10 to 1 on what iPad does. So and 2 more versions of Apple iPads have come out. So those are going to be challenges that we have to look at. So Globe is a natural fit for getting these touchpad technologies out into the field, whether it's Android or iPad. But the big question is, what are the other apps? What other things do teachers need? It's not just the data collection. It's all sorts of things that teachers might need. And those are the kind of things that we want to tap into, because we want to look at a holistic view, not just the data collection, because there are a lot of people that are doing that. Scott kind of alluded to the fact that Pasco's doing it and Verniers doing it. But what makes it very interesting is I have a digital camera. I have a flip phone, a flip camera. I don't carry any of those. I carry this. And the only reason I carry this is because as soon as I take a picture, bam, it's online. If I take a movie, bam, it's online. I can't do that with my cameras. I have to go home. I have to process it through my computer. Then I have to upload it. These are instant. Okay, when we talk about, well, what are the problems? What are the impediments of getting the data from the field to the Globe website? It's that step from collecting the data, sitting on the computer, logging on, getting it in there. If you're out in the field and you're doing, okay, this is the pH, this is the turbidity, this is the water temperature, it's there then. Instant input. And that's what we want to look at. As part of this presentation, as part of this, we want to ask what are the needs. So we've developed kind of a survey with Todd Ensign kind of spearheading it. It's 2 pages, so just give them the top 2 pages. Dave, if you could start on this side, and for the remainder of the time, if you could just take a look at those questions and answer them the best way that you can. Now remember, it's not just the data acquisition and getting the data there fast enough. It's anything that you think teachers could use with the iPad or the touch technologies. Anything, okay? Because you never know. You just never know what is going to be useful, okay? So thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. Oh, this isn't like a defense. You know, I've already got a doctorate.
So since our sponsors are here, then I would say what we're asking for is the tricorder with visualization capability.
A tricorder. Nice.
Okay, thank you very much from this group. What we have about 10 minutes and left of this session, which I think is wonderful because they have a pretty extensive survey. So as you can see from all 3 of these committees, they're trying desperately to gather your input and your feedback. So please take a moment to answer the questions on this survey, and we've got 3 stacks up here on the table here up here in front. We're going to ask that when you go to have lunch with those surveys that you have completed, we'd like you to put them on their proper stack up here so that we can gather all this feedback. And then we have an hour for lunch. So from 12 to 1, you can see our food's already over here. Yay. And so what we'd like you to do is to grab your food and go ahead and sit back at your table, continue discussing the items that we discussed this morning. I'm really, really excited because we have already gained so much feedback on just these 3 subcommittees that have formed. We got a tremendous amount of feedback for the Master Trainer Program as well as for the K4 group, and then now with the web discussion subcommittee as well. So we're really, really pleased with all of your feedback. So we'll go ahead and close down the audio portion right now of the streaming video so that you all can finish your surveys, have some lunch, and we will tune back in on live with everybody at 1 o'clock. All right? Thank you for joining.
All right. Jerry, did you have a question or?
I had a comment, if I might. Touch technology is broader than just iPads, and I was going to ask, are you going to look at Android too? But I think you've answered that.
Oh yeah,
But, you know, the
Google surpassed.
The number one touch technology in the classroom is the interactive whiteboard.
Oh yeah.
And so I would think my comment would be we look at cross-platforming this beyond just iPad and Android.
Put it on the list right now.
You know, so they could go and do it on the interactive whiteboard. You know, not to mention brand names, but that real intelligent board that's but you know, I was just wanted to throw that out there that we think beyond our phone and our iPad when we think about touch technology.
I just have a question about the survey.
Yes.
So the very first question, could your students, so are you talking about the K-12 student, or if we're dealing with pre-service students, or
that question,
can it be open?
Yeah, it's open.
Okay.
That's my response, because this was a collaborative effort, and Todd had sent out some questions. I had written some questions. Scott had written some. Everyone wrote some questions. Some of the questions might be repetitive. Just kind of do the best, and we'll try to analyze it the best we can. Okay, thank you.